Worthy, then if you're going to get the best out of him when Rice is back, it needs to be as a vertical player. I think in week 4, what we saw is that the Chiefs do intend for Xavier Worthy to be a vertical player.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
May be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
One of the top storylines, I think, is in Kansas City from a wide receiver perspective. Xavier Worthy, I thought, made a huge impact in his return against Baltimore. What do you see there with Xavier Worthy and his impact on that Chiefs offense?
Yeah, instantly made the offense more watchable, which wasn't hard to do because it wasn't very watchable before the Xavier Worthy return. So,
right.
Yeah, man, I thought this was a nice return here for Xavier Worthy. And this was something I was itching to see was Xavier Worthy because he's a guy that, you know, from a prospect profile perspective, a rookie profile perspective, I wouldn't like mixed bag. You say like, oh, it was a mixed bag. People assume that's like a dig, and I'm not, or it's a negative. You know, you either got to be all positive or all negative. And he was just a player that I think has like very defined strengths and very defined weak areas in his profile. And that does not mean that he is somebody that is bad or whatever. But I think there are just like specific ways to use a guy like Xavier Worthy. And I think the Chiefs kind of almost, again, this sounds like negative, but almost were like experimenting, trying to find the right way to use Xavier Worthy in his rookie season. We remember obviously early on last year, he was kind of almost like a decoy and someone that they were trying to get on vertical routes, and him and Patrick Mahomes were just like a little bit off, you know, whether it was Worthy wasn't exactly where Mahomes was expecting him to be, or the pressure like made Mahomes just miss him by a little bit. Cause obviously they had issues at left tackle specifically last year, especially early on when they were trying to get Worthy loose on those deep routes. And then obviously he had a lot of success in what some people categorized as the Rashee Rice role at the end of his rookie season. And I don't really think it was the Rashee Rice role because he was not running those like in breakers. He was really running like quick out routes against man coverage, that's definitely not the Rashee Rice role. That's obviously like the inverse of it because Rice is so much more over the middle of the field against zone coverage. But they were used, and like he was used similarly in like design touches, ways, screens, and stuff like that. So was really interested to see where they came down on Worthy in year 2 because to me, in my opinion, I think if you're going to get the most out of him, especially once Rice is back, like we still don't have really any data on those two guys popping off together because obviously Worthy didn't break out till late in the season when Rice was way, way gone by that point. He lasted only like 3.1 games last year because he got hurt like very early in week 4. So I'm very curious still to see how that relates. But again, I'm thinking that Rice is going to remain in this kind of big slot underneath role where he's yards after catch type of player. And Worthy, then if you're going to get the best out of him when Rice is back, it needs to be as a vertical player. You can't have these two guys doing sort of the as we've joked before, the route shrub, the Mickey Mouse type targets. You've got to have one of them unlocking the other down the football field because that's not going to be Marquise Brown or whatever at this point. I think in week 4, what we saw is that the Chiefs do intend for Xavier Worthy to be a vertical player. 17 air yards per target, over 20 air yards per target against man coverage, which I still think that Worthy is never going to be a great player against man coverage. That was obviously the weaker point in both his prospect profile. It wasn't poor from a prospect profile perspective. It was like 68% success rate, which, you know, it's kind of middle of the road again as a prospect, but he was good against zone coverage. Same thing as rookie season, 60.2% against man coverage, but 80.1% against zone. And so again, if you're going to attack him with man coverage, it's got to be kind of in specific ways and specific circumstances. And I think a lot of that will be down the football field or on those quicker out routes. So really nothing in the middle, more like deep down the field and shorter to the line of scrimmage. I think you saw a lot of that against Baltimore. And so I went back and charted this game. He'll be in the week 4 charting notebook. I thought he was very impressive once again against zone coverage though. Like that's where I think he needs to take a leap to be like a high end target earner. And I think we did see some evidence of that in his first game back.
Well, it's really interesting to your point, Matt. He was targeted on literally zero of his 8 targets came on in-breaking routes. None.
Yeah.
They were all either vertical or breaking to the outside. So, so again, you would imagine that complements very well with what Rashee Rice does, which is just kind of sort of, dominating the inside in breaking routes and all those kind of things. And again, just to kind of sort of piggyback on what you were saying before, to add a little bit more data to that, of his 8 targets, 5 of his targets were at least 15 yards downfield or more. 4 of his targets were more than 20 yards downfield. So kind of gives you an idea of, okay, we're either going to attack vertically with this guy, or we're going to let him utilize some of his speed on some of these quick outs and screen game, type of throws for Xavier Worthy. So again, they're utilizing him, I think, in a smart way. They're trying to unlock his speed here a little bit. I wonder what it ends up looking like with Rashee Rice. By the way, Matt, can I bring this up too? I know we kind of look at Rashee Rice as like, okay, this is what he did more than a year ago, right? But wouldn't it, I guess what I would say is, I would caution folks in terms of, okay, Rashee Rice is going to get dropped into this offense and look like Rashee Rice, like the player that we saw early in 2024, right? Because again, this guy has not played professional football in over a year, right? And like, there is something to that. You know what I mean? So I just wonder what that ramp up time ends up looking like for Rashee Rice, because with the suspension, with the injury, he just hasn't seen the football field in any meaningful way in such a long time. I just do wonder if the transition for him to get ramped up takes a little bit longer than folks are anticipating.
I'm really glad you said that, because I have felt a little bit on an island for even bringing up that possibility. I'm not saying it's a certainty, but bringing up that possibility when discussing Rashee Rice all throughout the summer, in regards to, his suspension and when he's going to be back, and, when do you take him in fantasy football and all that stuff. And look, I think that obviously people will tell you that the reports are all positive. They've been nothing but glowing. Yeah, because the Chiefs are well known for Patrick Mahomes is a negative guy for sure. Like they've got something negative to say. No, they got something positive to say about all their players. I remember getting inundated with how excited they were for Sky Moore's year 2 leap, and he was like one of the worst receivers of all time. A little harsh, but I mean, he was a very ineffective player and was not used heavily, and eventually was cut from the team. But so I don't know how compelling that is, but people will say, oh, look at the Instagram clips, look at the clips of him running a training camp. Looks 100% to me. I always come back to, you know what? It's just different playing football, man. Come back to right around this time last year, James, I remember us having this conversation about Tank Dell, who it was same thing. You brought up the fact that, this guy was, he's coming back from a major injury. I know but I look at the training camp clips. They're saying he's 100%. He's playing all the snaps. I'm like, I've got my eyeballs on the film right now. That guy might be wearing Tank Dell's jersey, but he does not play like Tank Dell. I mean, it's not the same effective player. And that's why it took a minute for Tank Dell to get ramped up last season, until ultimately, obviously, his season ended with another serious injury. So I think that's where I'm at with Rice, is that I'm hoping that he comes back and hits the NFL field and is immediately the same guy that we saw 365 days ago. But there's no guarantee that happens. And especially for a guy that, he's a particular type of wideout too. He's a guy that they need to find the right roles for. They need to do a little role catering for him. Yeah. And he's a baller in that role. He's awesome. He's a bully after the catch, but yeah, maybe it takes a minute for that knee to get fully back. I will say benefit here to him that he's going to have 6 games, 6 more additional weeks to get healthier. And it's not like he's dropping onto the field in week 1. So maybe so again, I'm with you on just keeping an eye on that. That's not like a take, but it's just something to keep on the radar. How it relates to Xavier Worthy though, is if Rashee Rice is in that role, and if he is playing the role that we saw last year and he's getting that level of volume, even when Worthy is not touching the football, his presence is key for Rashee Rice, because there were 2 touchdowns by the other wideouts. Actually, I think 3 because Tyquan Thornton snagged one as well. But 2 plays stood out to me where Xavier Worthy, once again, running out breaking routes on the Juju Smith-Schuster 4-yard touchdown. He runs an out route and takes one defender with him, and then Juju's just got a little soft spot to sit on, kind of like a quick comeback route from the slot. That's going to be Rashee Rice at some point.
Yeah,
you know, he's just going to
long.
have that open field. Later on in the game, Marquise Brown scores a touchdown. 2 defenders come down to Xavier Worthy on a quick out route. Once again, space. There's a voided space. That's where Hollywood Brown goes. Touchdown again. It's just like that his presence alone does open stuff up, even when he's not, and in a more effective way than just him clearing it out on go routes and stuff like that. He did run a lot of go routes this past week, connected on one of them, a couple misses on some others, but yeah, I just think like his presence alone is going to be really beneficial to the offense overall. It's going to be really beneficial to Rashee Rice when he is back out there. So yeah, I think the Chiefs, for all the kind of consternation about their wideouts in the first few weeks, it's like, well, yeah, they're missing their top 2 guys, and 2 guys that, you know, like that are pretty important from a design and construction perspective. I think especially Xavier Worthy. So it's one game, but even just charting it out and seeing some of the data for him, I feel like I understand what they want Worthy to be more, and I feel a little more confident in Worthy, the player, and what his role is going to be going forward here in 2025.